All right, welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. We're diving into patch 25.06 this time. And let me tell you, it is a big one. This patch is absolutely packed. It's not just, your typical balance tweaks here and there.
Yeah, this one really touches on like every facet of the game almost. Champion changes, obviously, but also items, how the game systems work at a fundamental level, even a whole new minigame thrown in there.
Yeah. You guys sent in a ton of stuff, patch notes, of course, forum discussions. Some of you even shared some early gameplay thoughts.
And that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah,
To sift through all that and try to figure out what's actually going to matter to you when you boot up the game.
exactly. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by all these changes. We're aiming to be like your personal patch notes decoder ring. So, what are the big picture takeaways from 25.06? What do you need to know to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, let's break it down. We've got a bunch of champion adjustments, some straight up reworks, others are more like targeted buffs and nerfs.
Hmm.
Item builds are probably going to see some shifts.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the way the early game plays out, that's getting shaken up too. Anti-lane swap stuff is changing again. Bounties are getting a rework. There's so much going on. Plus, we can't forget about the new stuff. We've got the Demon's Hand minigame, updates to honor rewards and champion mastery. Your shop is back. New skins, they're even improving Vanguard, the anti-cheat system, and, a massive overhaul to the Mythic Essence shop.
We're going to try to cover as much as we can, especially the stuff that's going to make you go, oh, that's why they did that, or this is actually a pretty big deal. So where do we even start?
Good question. How about those champion reworks? Those always generate a lot of buzz.
Perfect. 3 champions are getting pretty significant overhauls.
Yeah.
We should probably start with Naafiri.
Okay, yeah, Nafiri's mid-scope update, everyone's talking about this one. I mean, they straight up swapped her W and R abilities. Her ultimate, Hound's Pursuit, it makes her untargetable now. That's a huge change.
Right. Think about what that means in a fight. You could use it to dive the backline, soak up some crucial spell, and then immediately turn on them. You couldn't really do that before.
Yeah, it's like a whole new level of outplay potential. She can bait abilities, make aggressive plays, really punish bad positioning. And then her passive, We Are More, they've changed that too. Now she gets more pack mates as the game goes on, up to 5 at max level. Plus, they do way more damage to monsters.
That's interesting. You think we'll see her in the jungle now?
It's possible. I mean, her early clear might still be rough, but that bonus monster damage, plus the safety her ultimate gives her for dueling and escaping, it's tempting.
They also did some mid-patch adjustments to her base stats, lowered her health regen a bit, attack damage, health, and armor all went down slightly. Seems like they're being careful with her power level.
Makes sense. Big changes like that always need some fine-tuning. Her Q, Darkened Daggers, got a damage buff to minions, which is nice for wave clear. But the core of the update is her new W, the Call of the Pack.
Yeah, that's where the untargetability comes from. She also gets bonus AD when she uses it, but it only summons 2 pack mates. The buff doesn't last as long, and the movement speed bonus is less impactful. The cooldown is much lower, though, and it costs less mana.
They also remove the shield, the vision pulse, and the takedown reset. So it's a trade-off, right?
Right.
Less sustained damage and utility, but more burst and that crucial invulnerability window.
Exactly. It feels like they want her to be more of a hit-and-run skirmisher rather than a sustained damage threat. And then there's the new R, Hound's Pursuit. Get a takedown, you get a reveal and a recast. Second cast gives you a shield. Longer cooldown, higher mana cost, but the range is increased, the damage is adjusted, and it can't be blocked anymore. Plus, you can't target minions with it.
So you really need to get that first kill to unlock the full potential of the ultimate. It's all about snowballing. Land that ultimate, get a kill, and then you can either go for more aggressive plays or use the shield to survive.
Exactly. It requires a lot more planning and strategy compared to her old ultimate. All right, who's next on the rework list?
We've got Gwen, the Hallowed Seamstress. They want to shift her back towards being a lightly scaling AP fighter. It seems like she was getting a bit too strong as a late-game hypercarry.
Right, they want her to be more impactful throughout the game, not just a ticking time bomb waiting to explode in the late game. How do you see that playing out?
Well, they've lowered her health growth a bit, but her base health is up. Her passive 1,000 cuts, the AP scaling on the damage is lower now, and it does a lot less damage to monsters. I think that pretty much confirms no more Jungle Gwen.
Yeah, they're pushing her back into the lane for sure. Her Q, Snip Snip, they've buffed the final and maximum damage on that. Should make those fully stacked Qs feel a lot better for both trading and wave clear.
Definitely. Her W Hallowed Mist, it gives less bonus resistances now, and the AP scaling is down. So she'll still be untargetable in the Mist, but maybe a bit less tanky overall. But her E, Skip and Slash, that's where things get really interesting.
Ah, yes, the dash. What did they do with that?
The cooldown is significantly reduced, and it now has a flat 50% cooldown refund at all ranks. Plus, they've adjusted the on-hit damage, so it scales better with AP later, but starts a bit lower.
So with that cooldown reduction and the refund, she can be dashing around constantly. That'll make her so hard to pin down, especially with how it interacts with her passive. It really leans into that fighter identity.
Absolutely. And her ultimate, Needlework, it does less damage per needle now, and the AP scaling is lower, but the base slow is higher, and the increased slow is even stronger.
It's a trade-off. Less burst damage from the ultimate, but more consistent damage and utility from her other abilities. Plus, that increased slow is huge for locking down targets, either for herself or her team to clean up.
It seems like they want you to be weaving in and out of fights, using your whole kit, rather than just waiting for that late-game ultimate nuke.
Okay, who's the last champion getting a major overhaul?
The one and only Singed, the Mad Chemist himself. Oh, Singed. They gave him a nice buff to his base attack speed, but the real game changer is the change to his Q, Poison Trail. If a minion dies while poisoned by him, even if an allied minion last hits it, Singed gets the gold. This is huge for his farming.
It really is. It solves one of his biggest frustrations, where he'd perfectly poison a wave, but his own minions would steal all the last hits. This should make his laning phase so much smoother and more consistent. Do you think it'll change how people build him?
It's possible. With more reliable farm, he might be able to hit those core items like Rod of Ages or Demonic Embrace even faster, which could lead to some snowballing.
They did nerf the AP scaling on his E, Fling, slightly, and his health growth is down a little bit, so they're balancing it out by making him less of a late-game monster.
Makes sense. They want him to have a better laning phase, but not make him completely unstoppable later on. Okay, so those are the big three champion reworks. What about some of the other notable buffs and nerfs?
Let's run through them. Jarvan IV got a buff to his Q damage, both base and scaling. Looks like they want to see him as more of a jungle carry. Gayen's passive scaling with crit chance and bonus attack speed got improved, so he'll be stronger in the mid to late game.
Kaisao got some love too. They increased her base armor and health regen for better lane survivability. Oh, and her ultimate cooldown got significantly reduced. That's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, being able to use her ultimate more often means she can be more aggressive, make more plays. It's a nice quality of life change.
Absolutely. Kaizik's passive and E damage got buffed, which should make him a bit stronger in duels. Lilia's E cooldown is down, and the AP scaling is up. That'll make her Swirl Seeds more impactful.
Lucian's E cooldown got reduced too. More mobility for everyone. Master Yi's armor growth got nerfed, but they buffed the bonus crit damage on his Q, so it's a trade-off for building crit.
Interesting. Poppy's Q damage to monsters is up, so they're specifically trying to buff her jungle clear without affecting her other roles. Smolder got a whole bunch of buffs, more damage on his W and E, and his ultimate cooldown is lower.
Oh, someone at Riot must love Smolder. Twisted Fate got a buff to his base armor, which will help him survive the laning phase. And Xin Zhao's Q damage is up, also aimed at making him a stronger jungler.
A lot of jungler buffs this patch, huh? And some love for the AD carries too. All right, time for the nerfs. Brace yourselves.
Oh boy, here we go. Caitlyn's W headshot damage and R damage got nerfed. They're targeting her oppressive lane dominance and that guaranteed damage from her ultimate.
Corki's base armor is down, so he won't be able to bully as hard in the early game. And look at this, they nerfed Darius's passive damage to monsters. Guess they weren't too happy with jungle Darius.
That's a specific nerf, for sure. It seems like they're trying to avoid hitting his top lane performance too hard.
Draven got a pretty big nerf too. They removed the bonus adoration stacks from his passive. That's gonna hurt his snowball potential. Ezreal's armor growth is down, making him squishier later on.
But Fiora's Q mana cost actually got reduced. Interesting.
Yeah, I think they're trying to help her out with wave clear since her play rate is pretty low right now. Garen's E damage on crit got nerfed, so those crit builds won't be as strong. And Jinx's ultimate damage got reduced across the board, although the missing health damage is the same.
Karma's Q base damage is down, which should weaken her laning a bit. And Yorick's E damage to monsters got nerfed. Another jungler bites the dust.
It's a pretty comprehensive set of nerfs. They're hitting a lot of the overperformers and problem champions, but in a way that feels targeted and specific. Okay, let's move on to item and system changes.
All right, starting with items. Cyril's Grudge got a rework. They increased the armor penetration and lowered the ability haste.
That sounds like a buff for assassins. Makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like they want to push it more towards being an assassin item. Less ability haste means you need to make those rotations count, but the increased armor pen will help you shred through tankier targets.
Warmog's armor got some changes too. It costs less now, and the bonus health from Warmog's vitality got increased.
That should make it a more attractive option for tanks and bruisers. More health and lower cost. Who doesn't love that?
Definitely. Okay, what about those system changes? The anti-lane swap stuff? That's always interesting.
Yeah, they've adjusted it again. The start time is a bit later now, and the end times for top and mid are earlier. Plus, the minion gold and XP penalty got reduced significantly. They also made the alert messages more clear.
So they're still trying to discourage those pre-planned lane swaps in pro play, but they're also acknowledging that the original penalties might have been too harsh for regular games.
Exactly. Finding that balance between competitive integrity and not punishing regular players for making flexible lane decisions.
Bounty's got a pretty big rework too. The gold lead detection time for suppression is much shorter now, and the suppression strength is way higher. It kicks in a lot earlier in the game too.
So those snowballing bounties are going to be a lot harder to get. It seems like they want to encourage other ways to press an early lead, like taking objectives rather than just hunting for kills.
Could lead to some interesting strategic shifts. All right, Arena. That's a mode that's constantly evolving.
It really is. They're making tweaks to champions, those special guests of honor, and they're constantly adjusting augments and items. It seems like they're really committed to keeping it fresh and balanced.
Absolutely. Swift Play got a small change too. The scaling times for Elder Dragon and Baron buffs got adjusted to better fit the shorter game length. Makes sense.
Now let's talk about the big one, the Mythic Essence Shop update. This is a complete overhaul, no more static rotations. They're introducing a system with permanent featured content, bi-weekly rotations of random mythic skins, weekly chroma rotations, and daily rotations of icons, wards, and emotes.
That's a lot to take in. I think it's a good change, though. It should make the shop a lot more dynamic and give players more chances to get the stuff they want.
The quicker rotations mean you'll see a lot more variety, especially for those smaller cosmetic items. And the bi-weekly mythic skin pool could offer some fun surprises, maybe a chance to snag an older skin you missed.
Don't forget, the new shop goes live on Thursday, March 20th at 0000000000 UTC. Mark your calendars. We also have a brand new minigame to talk about, the Demon's Hand.
Ah, yes, the turn-based card battler. Seems like it ties into Adacon's lore somehow. You can play it right in the client, and there are rewards to earn, including a special title if you can beat the hardest difficulty.
It's a cool little side activity for when you need a break from Summoner's Rift. And speaking of rewards, honorable players can now run up to 2 additional Hextech chests per act through missions.
It pays to be nice. The rewards also come faster if you're at a higher honor level. Always a good reminder to keep those comms positive.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about the new Champion Mastery icons. They got a redesign based on player feedback, trying to blend the old look with something fresh.
They're still tweaking the colors, textures, and audio, though, so expect some more refinements next patch.
Your shop is back too, for 2 patches available until April 16th. Time to stock up on those discounted skins and champions.
Now, this next update is a big one for ranked play. Vanguard, the anti-cheat system, is getting an upgrade.
Yeah, this is huge. If you lose a ranked game to a confirmed cheater, you'll now get your LP back once that cheater is banned.
That's fantastic. It should help restore some faith in the rank system.
You get a notification about the refund and your updated rank, and if you happen to win a game with a cheater, you won't lose any LP. But be warned, intentionally queuing with cheaters will get you banned.
They're also adding reporter feedback notifications, so you'll know when a player you reported for cheating gets banned.
That's a good addition. It shows they're taking those reports seriously. All right, we also got some new music with Black Rose beats, new Spawn in music, maybe a little arcane vibe in there, and an evolving choir layer throughout the game.
Adds a bit of atmosphere. I like it.
Yeah.
And of course, we can't forget the massive list of bug fixes and quality of life improvements. Too many to list here, but it's great to see them constantly polishing the game.
Yeah, those bug fixes might not be flashy, but they make a huge difference in the long run. All right, let's wrap this up. We covered a lot of ground today.
We sure did. We talked about the Nefiri, Gwen, and Singed reworks, went through all the notable buffs and nerfs, and dove into those system changes, like the bounty rework and the anti-lane swap adjustments.
Plus, we talked about the Mythic Essence shop revamp, The Demon's Hand minigame, all the arena updates, and so much more.
It's a packed patch. Hopefully this deep dive gave you a good idea of what to expect when you hop into your next game. Whether you're a hardcore ranked grinder or a casual player, there's something in this patch for everyone.
Definitely. Go explore the new stuff, try out those rework champions, and see how these changes shake up the meta. And as always, we like to leave you with something to think about. With these big changes to bounties and lane swaps, how do you think the early game is going to change? Will we see more emphasis on objectives, new strategies?
It's going to be fascinating to see how things play out. And that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.